because then there's a handshake between Neha and Vaha. Amazing. Adi, also, thank you. I appreciate you doing this. Hey everyone, my name is Karan Othra and welcome to this new live of this conversation series that we do once a month now. And I'm very fortunate to have with us today Varun Chawla of Build3. Hey Varun, welcome to the show.
Hey man, let's go. Excited to be here.
Awesome, amazing to have you. And it's I'm excited for this conversation. This is actually the second time Varun and I are chatting on a live this year, and I'm already scheming on a third one, which I'm going to tell Varun about later.
Let's go.
It's happening in the background. But for those who maybe are living under a rock, but nevertheless, I will give you an introduction to Varun Chawla because he has had a very storied career and it looks like he's only just getting started in a whole different phase. And he's very excited about it. So I'm going to give you a quick introduction. He was the co-founder of 91 Springboard, presently founder and builder at Build3. He's been building communities and companies for the last 20 odd years. 91 Springboard has got to like raising 29 million, scaled to 35,000 members, 45 hubs. Build3 is something that he's focused on right now. As of public numbers, it says they've deployed over 3 crores into startups. I'm sure there'll be some updates that maybe Varun wants to share. Beyond that, his career, he started at Goldman Sachs, then moved into entrepreneurship, founding 91 Springboard, grew that. It was backed by Barclays and Google. Today at Build3, he's focused on Eco Ashram, which is this lovely 30-acre entrepreneurship village in the Western Ghats. I'm quite excited to visit it myself. I haven't. I'm not too far from it, but I'm definitely going to make a point to get down there very soon. And we're here very obviously to talk about how you can focus yourself beyond just the boardroom, right? Whether you're a senior founder, whether you're a VP of an organization, or you're going into a boardroom looking to raise money and you have a VC, whether Varun Chawla, venture capitalist, or a regular sort of VC out there, how do you position your narrative? So that is the introduction about Varun. How was your day today, Varun?
The day's been great. We typically do monthly feedbacks on Tuesdays. It's normally the second Tuesday, but we had a power outage last week, so we're doing it today. So that's always fun. Sharing with people how great colleagues they've been to me and how I can request them to improve in small ways, and vice versa, hearing from them how I've been as a colleague and what I can do better. It's just this amazing, wholesome way of getting each other to be better team members, to be better as a team, to do better as an organization. So it's one of my more fun days of the week.
Amazing. And I mean, framing feedback also can sometimes be like a mini story that you have to invite someone into, right? So I'd love to sort of use that as a jump off point, a springboard to go into
Yeah.
conversation. How do you approach because you have context, that's because you're doing this once a month every Tuesday. I mean, one Tuesday
Second Tuesday. Yeah.
second Tuesday in a month, every month, and then you have context from the previous month or months, and you have this person that you have to guide into the next few months that they have to live into. So how do you think of framing, feedback as this conversation or a story that you have to invite them into?
Yeah, I think one of the things I learned very quickly is um, we don't personalize the feedback. We talk about activities, actions, events. We give examples and we be as specific as to what we observed, that we want to say, well done, and I'd love to see more of this, or something we observed and we'd like to say, hey, could you possibly consider doing it in this other way? And then be very specific in what that other way can look like and why we think that's better. And I also leave that conversation not with the expectation that I've said it once, now this person's going to change their behavior tomorrow. That is not the expectation. The expectation is we all have our own learning journeys, and it takes time to understand this other perspective, to recognize if this other perspective is even valuable, to see if I'm hearing this feedback from two or three places. Is genuinely just one person's perspective, or is it broadly true for how I'm carrying myself and behaving? So it's a journey, and so I know I have to give this feedback for 2 or 3 months, and possibly then they will make it their own. So I have to have that humility, that awareness, that patience with whatever feedback I'm giving. And I tell myself, if this change is not coming about, I'm not giving good quality feedback. I'm not convincing enough. I'm not clear enough. I'm not inspiring enough to help this person make this transition. So I take it as feedback for myself. Arun, you have to give better feedback. I don't know if I can't hear you or nobody can hear you. Something changed for me or something
My bad.
changed.
No, no, my bad. I just muted myself.
Oh, yeah,
So
cool, cool.
I was just saying that's an interesting framing in that, uh, y- correct me if I'm wrong and I paraphrase, but you're phrasing it as in the feedback that you've given and the actions that this person has taken is also feedback to you in how you gave feedback at the outset.
Yeah. Cyclical, recursive.
It's an interesting loop, but then you're like, I mean, and I definitely have some questions around the idea of looking inwards, because that's been a key part of, I think, one of the transition. Now I'd actually be curious to know, when we come to talking about some of that, has that always been the case, or was that, when you've talked about it publicly and saying that, okay, you went through, there were some physical health challenges, and then that led
Yeah,
to another sort of thing.
yeah.
But actually, why not just ask now? Because you've talked about things like, um, you've used words like Sherpa and Sevak, and you've talked about, and I remember I did a long road trip a couple of years ago, and I drove from Bangalore to the Wagah border, and I came to Amritsar, and I mean that was very deeply personal to me, going to the Golden Temple for the first time, and even something as small as the fact that when you're sitting in the langar, it's not as if someone is putting something in your plate. You have to raise your hands to be given the roti, and so someone is doing seva to you. So I don't know, Varun, but are you of the Sikh faith or Punjabi in general?
I'm Punjabi in terms of my geographical origins and my genetics, but haven't lived in Punjab. I have a lot of family in Punjab. Religiously, I'd say I'm a fan of many faiths and beliefs, but don't count myself as follower of one exclusively, though my family raised me to be Hindu.
Okay, got it. So then, if you could talk about why are these words like Shepa, Sevak? You also
Hmm.
talked about the idea of Nishkarma and Karma Yoga.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Why are these
Yeah,
things
yeah, yeah.
important to you in Varun's story?
So first, I put into two buckets, right? Sherpa I see in its own bucket, and I see Seva, Nishkarma, and Karma Yoga almost as the one second bucket. So Sherpa comes to me as um, I think I was 38 years old. The year was probably 2020. Yeah, 2020, 21. Yeah. And I realized I had led a very uh, selfish life. I wanted to build a startup for me to become successful, which means fame, which means financial upside. And that was a lot of my purpose or my motives to building a startup last time around. And I realized it led to, I'd say, a lot of friction, a lot of personal introspection, a lot of moments where this felt like there's got to be a better way to do this, and this is not the way I would do it if I could do it all over again. And while I'm proud of everything, and I learned a lot through my previous journeys, in this particular journey, I said things will be different. And I'm going to take on the role of being a helper, a supporter, and in the kindest, gentlest way. And to this came to mind this community of Nepali mountaineers who, they can climb one of these tough top mountains, at a drop of a hat because they are native to the place. Their bodies, their mental makeup is made to be able to scale these mountains. And A lot of Europeans come to the Himalayas wanting to scale these mountains, and they seek support of locals who understand the local environment, the lay of the land, where to get resources, what resources will be required for a successful climb, etc., etc. These Sherpas play this role of very humble, very helpful, very knowledgeable people who've been there, done that themselves. But now, when this European climber, as an example, may have come, they offer all of their knowledge and wisdom in service of this climber to help their climbing journey being successful. And I think there is a certain satisfaction and joy and gratification from being in that position. Not being the hero of the journey necessarily, but supporting the hero of the journey with everything you've got. Being the best supporting actor, no, there is a certain joy and humility in that. And I think that's a role that I've consciously put myself in, and many of us at Build3 choose to put ourselves in as we support entrepreneurs in their journeys. They're the hero at Build3. We're here to support, we're here to enable, we're here to empower. We bring all of our knowledge, all of our wisdom, and it's not bookish wisdom. It comes from our own experience that we're putting in service of this younger or newer founder going on their first or second journey. And if we can be helpful in that, that is all the thanks we need. So that's where this Sherpa mentality and mindset comes from. The second one you asked is related, but I would still say separate, which is the sense of seva, nishkarma, or karma yoga. The term itself means giving without the expectation of return. And this is a mindset bring to work every day that in a previous life or in my last decade, it was a lot like I would plan my life, I would make a strategy, I would say I will take actions A, B, C to create results X, Y, Z, and that's what life was. It was a game between life and us, and we would manipulate it, we would battle it, we would strategize it, and we would win it. And it would be I do ABC and then I receive XYZ, and that is the formula for winning life. And then I realized that while it would work some of the times, it wouldn't work some of the times, enough to confuse me that is this formula working or not. I broadly came to the conclusion this formula actually doesn't work, or at least it doesn't work for me. And the formula that actually works for me is just show up every day. I will give ABC, I will give DEF too. I will give it my all and genuinely and with no expectation of return. And what that did was I would show up every day, I would work hard, mind, body, and soul, and I would give it my best. I would feel tired and I would sleep a fulfilled sleep at the end of my day. And there would be no frustration that XYZ didn't happen at the end of it, or that some other result or some give and take didn't happen at the end of it. There's no frustration because there was no expectation. And if something did come out of all of my effort, I would only have gratitude, and I'd feel goodness that somewhere I deserve this. Thank you for this. I feel great and I accept it and I'm grateful for it. And it changes nothing about me showing up the next day and giving it my all, because getting this return was not the end result. Just being able to do my seva and to give, just the possibility of giving and somebody accepting and receiving it is the only expectation I had, nothing else. And it just changes how you operate life. There's just a lot more peace and equanimity and comfort. Uh, Life flows a little bit more easy.
That's amazing. Um, I mean, I have more follow-up questions, but how does mm, how does this show up today in what you're building with Eco Ashram for founders who are there, who are applying? I mean, even the idea of Eco Ashram itself,
Hmm.
because like if you dial it back to when you were, I think if I'm not mistaken, the first 91 Springboard space was in Okla. And so at that time also you had a group of people, and they were excited about working together, and you facilitating that, you're looking to raise a fund. That didn't happen, became about a space, and now it's again about a space, right? So how does this contrast to that?
Yeah, no, thank you. I think it's always been about communities, and spaces are fundamental to communities. Could be a digital space, it could be a physical space. Um, I think when we did it, what's now 13 years ago, the physical space was there to enable a bunch of builders, creators, people in the early stages of their journey to be with like-minded energy, doing the same journey or being in the same physical space as collaborators, which could be mentors, investors, other co-founders and vendors, and just that like-minded energy would feed off each other. We'd work together, we'd hang out together, we'd play games together, we'd sometimes go out in the evening for a drink together. So it was just bringing like-minded people in similar stages of their life to be complementary or supplementary to each other. That was the idea. And this is just ratcheting it up a notch. Right? This is taking our work lives and personal lives and bringing complementarity in that journey. So while a co-working space is what 91 Springboard was, the Eco Ashram is a co-working, co-building, co-living space. So it's bringing a lot more co than the first one was.
Mm.
And so in order for it to be successful at that, I think it's more than just putting together infrastructure and people in the same stage of their journey. It's a lot more around what is the value set, what are the activities that we will engage in outside of working hours, who are those collaborators we want outside of working hours, who are the collaborators we want during working hours. So let's say we're an entrepreneur and we enjoy again investors, mentors, service providers, other founders. We want them in our working hours, but outside of working hours, maybe we want people who believe in natural living or holistic well-being or practitioners of art and culture, and they make our lives full and vibrant, and vice versa. We potentially make their lives vibrant and open up new avenues for them. So, how do we get this larger, extended group of people together? What is the infrastructure that facilitates more of these activities? And what's that value set that allows us to not just plug in and plug out, but live, work, play together 24/7, 365, right? You can't, you go to a workplace, you're upset with somebody, you can check out in the evening and go to your private space, to your other people, and de stress and come back tomorrow, right? But when you live with these people, there's no opportunity to go elsewhere and de stress. We
Mm.
have to conflict resolve here, now, together. We have
Yeah.
to adult. so, so what is that value set? Who are these other humans? What are all these other activities? What are these rituals that we engage in for this to be a healthy, harmonious, stable environment? Not to say conflict will never happen, but how we navigate conflict is some of the magic, right? How do we not become a stale and boring ecosystem, and how do we continue to evolve and make it exciting and people want to be here, people want to wake up the next day and say what now? Have that sense of joy and excitement versus be like, yeah, I'm just going to get through another day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just sort of upping the challenge for myself and my team.
That's amazing. And I mean, you obviously very committed to this because, for example, I know that you go and spend time in Oroville every year, and you recently went to Edge Esmeralda, spent time over there. So you're looking at other physical spaces, right? What is it that what would you say are principles that you've leveraged from say Orwell? And also, I mean, just to play devil's advocate, because you're the sculptor, you're sculpting real time, right? And this thing is taking shape in front of you. But then
Yeah,
you also looked at these other ecosystems, and there are things that you think, acha, theek hai, I'm also learning how not to do something, right? So, I
yeah,
mean, what are you optimizing on? I mean, I don't want to say optimizing, but what are you trying to make, bring, create
sure,
space for it to show up
sure.
in a way that is fruitful and bountiful for everyone? And what are there areas that you feel that can tip it over the edge, that it's important for people to be conscious of also when they come in, and what expectations they have, and what they contribute, what they want to get out of it, etc.
Of course.
So
Thank you for that very thoughtful question. Um, so I take it as, what is the problem statement that I'm motivated to solve for? And then in the solutioning journey, of course, like any good problem solver, where am I seeking my inspiration? What all knowledge am I plucking from different places and combining, and then sort of testing and trialing and journeying through? Some stuff works, some doesn't. So this is the crux of the question as I understand it. And so, as a 38, 39-year old, I'd lived enough life. I'm 45 presently, but at 38, 39, it felt like there was some aspects of life I wasn't necessarily doing right. Because I'd found at 38 I had hiatus hernia, hypothyroidism, fatty liver, asthma, and arthritis in my body. Um, I was in a stage of my career where theoretically in 2020 my business could have gone completely belly up, and whatever reputation I thought I had as a founder would have gone to zilch. And so there was a real crisis of both health and, you could say, mind and soul. So
mm,
the mind, body, and soul were all in a difficult position in 2020. So I was clearly sensing that I'm not doing life right,
mm,
and they became a search started to emerge within me, wanting to know how could we do life right. My mother crossed over a few months into COVID, early 2021, so that was another, you know, important event that led me to question what I'd been taught and how I'm living life. Am I living my best life? What is a good life? What changes do I have to make to live more meaningfully, more respectfully, just better? And clearly, I wasn't doing many of those things given the signals I was getting. I ended up on a path of visiting Oroville, researching many other ecosystems from Findhorn and Damanhar, which are other intentional communities, to some of the kibbutzes in Israel, to some of the more modern ecosystems like Ed City. And I'm a student, I'm grateful, and I have the privilege of being in this vibrant world where there's so much information to learn and absorb and be inspired by. So I've gone into all of these places, picked a little bits that seem to work, but a framework that I learned in many religions and many philosophies, whether it's Hinduism or Buddhism or even just looking at modern social science and philosophers. I distilled it down to using something that's more common and well known by most folks, is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. While I'll wholly admit there are very similar explanations coming in Buddhism or coming in Hinduism or coming in other religious and non-religious philosophies, I just choose to use this because found recognition is easier. And I'll repeat for the sake of comfort of everybody, is he proposed first the five hierarchy of needs and then wrote a subsequent two more papers, Maslow, where he proposed a total of seven hierarchy of needs, and suggests they don't necessarily have to come up one after each other. What they are is your physiological needs, which is usually your roti kapda makan, which is your um, uh, air, food, water sort of things. Then your needs for security, which in a modern environment could look like money, which could look like a home, maybe it looks like safe drinking water, things like that. Then it looks like love, both emotional love and physical love. Then there is the needs for self-esteem, to be respected in one's society, for people to say, hey, Varun, you're doing good, you're helping, thank you for your work, thank you for your service, right? Self-esteem. Then come the needs for appreciating the aesthetic beauty in the world. All of us enjoy music, all of us enjoy nature, all of us enjoy art and culture. Where does this appreciation come from? There's something innate in all of us that when we see it, just have a smile, our heart melts, and there's joy. So there's the need to appreciate aesthetic needs, and then the need to foster our intellectual curiosity. We all have questions. We want to know how things work. Why did this happen? Why did that happen? How does this work? And we have all these questions, and our mind likes to break down complex things that we see around us. After that comes your needs for self-actualization. which in the simplest ways is achieving what you are meant to achieve, why you are here. And that can be different things for different people, but we know when we find that thing because we're in a state of flow, we're in a state of joy. It doesn't feel like a transaction, it feels like this is what I was meant to do.
Mm.
And then finally is transcendence, which in other words could be seva or nishkarma or karma yoga in my words. Right? These are things that we do just for others, not for ourselves. So achievement of these human needs looks like a fulfilled life, and
Mm.
living in a community in nature with like-minded people who are builders, living minimalistically, serving each other, making humanity better, respecting other human beings, other living beings of all types,
Mm.
working with the soil, growing our own food, eating simply. All of these things to me together achieved all of these human needs. It achieves the need for roti kapla and makan. It achieves the need for safety. It achieves the need for self-esteem and love. It achieves the need for curiosity and appreciating nature and other beautiful art that humans create. It achieves the need to serve. When you live in a community and work in this manner and live in this manner, to me it achieves this entire stack. So it felt like this is the best life that one can live, and I'd like to create that for myself. And when I started to share this with other people around me, a lot of people said, "Hey, this is a life we want too." I said, "Great. If you have the time and wherewithal, come build it with me. If you don't have the time and wherewithal, then let me build it and you join in whenever you can." And so that's sort of the culmination of the startup eco ashram as you see it today.
That sounds amazing. In fact, in one of your interviews, I'd actually put this quote aside, and just for anyone, because Varun talked about a bunch of things. This quote also encapsulates everything that you said, and it's said by Varun himself, where he said, "Beyond startups, we're adding comprehensive activities focused on natural living, water harvesting, renewable energy, natural home building, and farming. We're also integrating art, theater, music, comedy, and advanced wellness practices like naturopathy and Ayurveda." And I was like, this sounds like utopia to me. I mean, in that, this is the kind of thing that I personally am in that phase. Like, this, I'm more attracted to this. Um, and on that, we talked about feedback, right? And the way you would give feedback. Actually, we started the conversation with feedback. Uh, the way you give feedback, early on in the 91 Springboard days to now is very different. And the kind of startup entrepreneur that exists, the the plethora of energy sucking sort of attention seeking devices and everything else that's around them is very different. And today, in the context of say social media, attention grabbing, etc., it's very easy for people to go down into a rabbit hole and uh, you know be isolated in that sense. Um, How would you, I mean, like, what would you say to let's say, a 22-year-old today? What is the need for this kind of thing? Why is this more important than, listen, dude, I spend time with my friends on Twitch, and, we hang out and we're going for these experiences and these holidays and all that. I'm building, I can do all of that from anywhere. Why do I need to commit to being here for a month or 3 months and experience all this or even live here?
So, as a parent
Mm,
to a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old, I've realized you can't preach, you can't prescribe, you can't impose your will on them. Even if in the short run you have a power equation and can get them to follow through, it's not a long lasting way. It didn't come as an intrinsic motivation from them. And extrapolate that to a 22, 25-year-old where you have even less power because you're not their father and they're now older and they are independent, probably financially too. So you have no power dynamic. So you
mm,
cannot dictate or impose anything on them. All you can do is inspire. And I do believe everybody has their own journey and different things are going to appeal to everybody. So I don't have a right to have to be able to inspire everybody, but I have the right to be my most inspiring self. So if I truly believe in my heart, this is a good way to live. This is a honest, fair, humble, uh, pleasant, kind way to carry ourselves, which I truly do, then let me model that, right? Let me live that life every day, and let me open my doors to like minded people and let them come and be here for a day, a week, a month, a year, or their lifetime, right? So that is what I've done. I'm modeling this behavior and I'm opening my doors, and anybody who comes and enjoys it, enjoy it for a day. And maybe we've touched your heart 1% and you've taken that with you whenever you go back to Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, New York, London, Hong Kong, Tokyo, wherever, right? Or you take it back to a tier two, tier three city as fond memories and you seed that in your ecosystem. Or you stay with us for weeks and months and you give your energy and take it back even more deeply and take it back to your ecosystem. Or you stay here for life and become a permanent part of this ecosystem, this energetic bond, and you contribute to it with everything you have to give. All are viable outcomes and all are good outcomes. There is no outcome I am married to or I have an expectation that will come back. I am just doing what I truly believe in with joy. And whoever wants to join for a few days, few hours, few weeks, few months, few years, or a lifetime, they are welcome to it. And that's it.
It's amazing. Yeah, that I mean, so uh, we've been talking for like a little over half an hour,
Yes.
right? And
31 minutes, 42 seconds according to the timer.
and and I don't know, maybe some of the people who logged in are saying, "Listen, you guys are supposed to talk about personal branding and all that, right?" It's like so, and this. I just want to invite the audience into. It's been an engaging, interesting conversation for like 30 minutes, right? In that, we've talked about how Varun looked at in 2021, how he thought of fame and persona, sense of self versus how he looks at it today. How he sort of frames the idea of sevak, and sherpa, and why those are important. Uh, I mean, I have more questions, but even the idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and relating each of those to different stages here and now, to even parenthood, and I love the quote, and I will say it again at a little later. But I think it's this kind of storytelling or honest conversation, in my humble opinion, that is more likely to land with someone on the other side, right? Whether you're pitching to someone who's an investor, or whether you are a senior person and talking about the gift that the life that you lived for the last 20, 25 years, and you have this richness of experience. This is the kind of thing that we, I mean, if you were to stop the conversation right now at 33 minutes, and you take a transcript of this, you have content in this, okay, you have stories and content communication in this that can fill a bunch of different posts, right? And that can be really engaging stuff. And this is my invitation to people listening, that when you're talking about your story, think of it in these sort of terms. And there's too much stuff that is in the context of over optimization for, okay, I'm going to tell all this story because I want to land XYZ, these sort of leads and conversion, all that. And all of that is important, depending on whatever it is that you're looking to optimize for. But I do believe, and I guess I'm also putting this out there because I'm attracted to working with this kind of person who wants to tell an honest story, and has maybe gone through the thing of self-reflection in a way which is difficult to do, then tell an honest story, right? So with that in mind, Varun, so if you were to, you have listened to, I'm inviting Varun, the third person who's listened to this conversation with Varun and Karan here just now. And if you are the investor in that context, what would you say objectively are facets of this conversation that founders can learn from so far when they're talking about their story and putting it out there? What, in the context of founder-led marketing or founder-led branding or leadership branding, what is it that you feel that people do well, and what is it that they maybe optimize for, that they can
Of course.
Look at it slightly differently.
Yeah, no, I understand your question. I think, and I think Naval Ravikant also said this. I read in the almanac of Naval Ravikant, which is we can copy other famous people and try to emulate their online persona or their offline persona in an attempt to be like them, hoping to get a following like them. But remember, they're not copying anybody. They're just being their authentic selves, and they found resonance in their authenticity with a number of people. So trust yourself, have that self confidence that there is an authentic you that is amazing, that's going to do amazing things, that many people out there will want to know about, will want to connect with, will want to follow, and want to hear about. And to be very honest, I'm a regular guy, but I'm choosing not to follow anybody or anything per se. I listen to myself honestly and deeply. I reflect on what comes. And the simplest way is I follow my gut more often than I follow my mind. So I'm not overthinking, over planning. I'm not doing something like iske kitne views aayenge or how many followers will I get out of this. That is never in my mind. It's like, did this really happen? How did it make me feel? And can I share this honestly, vulnerably, with details with others? Because that's what fosters human connection. It's hopefully going to spark a little thought in somebody's heart or somebody's mind, and they're going to think about it. And it's going to take them on a journey. If I did that, I did well. If I didn't get any followers or I didn't get any thumbs and I didn't get any hearts, that's okay, right? But did I put myself out there authentically? And inevitably, when you put yourself out there authentically, it is unique. While we're all made of the same stuff, our stories are always unique. And if we just honor them every single day in building that story, and then we share that authentic, honest story online without any of the mirch masala, so to say, I think you'll find your tribe, and that tribe will follow you, will learn from you, will enhance your journey, will engage you. All sorts of magic will happen. And that's just been my approach. I share whatever comes honestly and authentically. I share it with as much detail as I can. I share with examples and stories, and I share regularly and consistently. I think if there was ever a formula, that is mine. And perhaps you will find some magic in that and adopt some of these for yourself.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Varun. Maybe just to elaborate on that a little bit more, because you have talked about uh, talking honestly, talking vulnerably, but also consistently, right? Doing that in a way that lands authentically. Um, what has the journey been like to get to that point? Even let's say, because you're on LinkedIn today, you're also sharing on Instagram. I'm guessing objectively on your end, you're also learning about these platforms as you're expressing yourself on those. What has it been like from where early on where you started to like what it's like now today?
Yeah. Um, See, if you're not coming from a genuine and authentic place, then my daily or my weekly or monthly sharing agenda would look like, okay, we need some ideas. Who are we going to copy? What's cool that somebody else is doing? These would be the conversation, the questions, and the thoughts in my head. Instead, it's just like, hey, what did I do yesterday or last week that was meaningful? What was that reaction I got from a founder or somebody in my personal life that really felt different? What did I do to make that happen? Why did I do that? Can I reflect on some of that? Can I have some of that internal dialogue, and can I represent it as articulately, as authentically, in as much detail as possible, with the intention of it being as seva or karma yoga or nishkarma for the community at large? And if it's that mindset that I wrap this activity in, this is where I end up. Versus if I think of the any other way, I think it's just going to be, I mean, it's just going to come out as schlop of some sort, right? I know these days it's all AI schlop, but there was human copy schlop that used to happen a lot in the past, and
Yeah.
uh, it just it just never felt fulfilling. Then it felt like work. Now it
Mm,
doesn't feel like work. It just
mm.
feels like joy. It feels like flow.
That is amazing.
So that's the simplest answer I have for you, my friend.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, I think a lot of the time, I mean, true answers also, they don't feel contrived, they feel simple enough. Um, toot, 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 toot.
I do that too.
Like
It
I'm
helps the
actually,
mind sort of.
yeah, I'm processing and also so figuring where we, sort of go with the. I did have one, since we've talked about so many different things and also the context of fulfillment, right? Um, I'm curious to know what was, and it also feels like the right time to end the conversation to ask this question. What was a fulfilling day for you in 2006, in 2016, and
Hmm.
2026? Because, correct me if
Hmm.
I'm wrong, you were in finance,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
Amazing. Okay.
what was the day like, and how did you, what was your metrics of measuring success? And
Sure. So, uh, 2006, just to lay the context, I was just, I'd landed in Bangalore. I was still part of Goldman Sachs, my first employer, the first job. I worked in equity research, which is overpaid journalists who can do maths. Um, and I'd come to Bangalore, which was undergoing this crazy build out of the tech ecosystem, which it's now the Silicon Valley of India. All of that was happening, and I happened to be an early part of it. Though I wasn't part of the tech side, I was part of the finance side. I was living this fairly glamorous life in the sense I was making over a crore a year. I
that,
was
that,
living in the heart of Bangalore, Richmond town. I had my own car. I had a job that was, by most metrics, quite fancy. And I had a very active social life. I'd go out 2 or 3 days a week. There was a fair bit of drinking. There was a bit of wanting to be at the cool spots where all the celebrities would be and where inevitably the page three photographers would be. So life was having a nice home, having a good car, having a good salary, a good job that you could talk about in public, being seen at the right parties, um, and possibly finding my life partner, who probably at that point was defined in very, um, I would say, objective terms and didn't have any deep meaning. Uh, so that was probably my life and my goals at that point, and I was living it. Fast forward 2016, contextually, I was now in the middle of my longest startup journey, 91 Springboard. This was 4 years into that journey. It had started in 2012. We'd received now good amounts of money, and we were in the middle journey of scaling, which looks like building a team, which looks like spending money efficiently, building processes, building culture, raising more money, uh, uh, doing it all in a financially profitable way, um, having board meetings. For that, it meant frequently traveling to Singapore because that's where our board meetings would happen. Um, that was what life looked like. And success at that moment was, I'd given up on my health, by the way. I was not paying any attention to it. And as I told you earlier, that came to a standstill in 2019, 2020. But I wasn't paying attention. I was taking about 100 flights a year. I was signing new leases, finding new locations. I was negotiating hard with landlords. I was bringing on board a team that I felt was capable and could support us on our journey. A lot of my negotiations at that time tended to be this win lose thing. How do I convince this person? Not how am I genuinely doing the best thing for them and me, but how can I convince them to somehow come on board? What they'd say about Steve Jobs, the reality distortion field. I felt I had some 10, 20% version of that also. Um, it was all about building, scaling, growing, raising more money, spending the money, becoming famous, doing a lot of interviews, uh, achieving my startup dream, right? Becoming rich and famous in the startup world. I would say that was my dream at that point, and those were the metrics by which I was measuring myself. Family life. I was married at this point. I was to expect my first child. No, sorry. This is 2016. 2014 and 2017 were my two children, two
Mm,
beautiful girls. So I'd become a dad, but admittedly wasn't spending a lot of time with my newly born daughter. I wasn't spending a lot of time playing sports, and I'd grown up loving sports, and until recently was playing ultimate frisbee, but I wasn't now playing that anymore. So everything became the startup, and success became fame and fortune. 2026. Um, I'm now building startup. I'm building the startup eco ashram, which is part of the Build3 group. At Build3, our mission is to enable 100,000 founders to build startups and make the world a better place. We have a teal organization culture, which means it's a self-managing organization. People choose their own work, their own responsibilities, hold themselves accountable and each other accountable. There's no managers, there's no CEO. I'm not the stick wielding boss who's breathing fire and getting people to do stuff. I just share what I think could be cool and fun and what could be inspirational. I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, I'm an inspirational person who shares my ideas, but it's up to people to choose what they'd like to do. Um, I take on the role of being one of the problem solvers along everybody else on the team. I have certain skills and knowledge that's different from them, so I choose my areas commensurate to my experience and knowledge. I spend time with my family. I read a lot of books. I practice philosophy of different types. I visit places like Oroville. I listen to live music. Uh, I live in nature. I hug trees. um, those are the standards I live by today. And probably 10 years later, this would have evolved too. But this is the current Varun. This brings him joy, and this is what he optimizes life for. Um, yeah,
amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Um,
thank you. Did I answer
so
your question the right way? Was that your expectation, or did I just go off track?
no, no, I don't think that, like, my belief is there's no right or wrong answer. There is just an expression of something, and something that you know. I feel you would get this because it seems that you're doing it or living it. Quite often, you're channeling something, right? It's not that at least the way I see it is, if you're attached to words, then you're attached to a preset notion and an expectation on the other side. Uh, if you allow for pure expression to happen, then it's just a channel. And I
Yep.
completely get what you were saying earlier, that in the context of just showing up and not doing this judgment evaluation metrics kind of thing on a day-to-day basis. And I think what is worth looking at for people also viewing this conversation in this timeline that you've gone through, in the
Yep.
first two phases that you talked about,
Mm.
there was a certain kind of metrics of evaluation of success and criteria and everything.
Yep.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but then that led to also a clear, you know, physical examination, right? Like actual examination and physical examination also. Like, okay, I thought all this, I would do all this, and this is what I've led to. Now, is this what I want? Someone else,
Yeah.
like I've met other people also high up in the corporate world, and they're earning whatever 2-3 crores a year. For them, because their thing is, acha, by 45 or 50, I'll have a bypass, and this I'll have this, and I'll have that. So if because they're married to that, and I mean, everyone has the right to choose whatever it is, whatever version of life they want to live, and how they
Yeah.
want to express themselves. Um, but I think the choices that you make leads to whatever it does, and
Yeah.
you channel what you do and the answers you give. So,
Thanks, Karan.
but
There's a couple of questions I'm seeing from Vikram. Is it okay if I answer those? Is that okay?
100%. Let me pull those up. I
Yeah, I
didn't
see
see
them
those
right
coming.
here. Yeah, yeah, perfect. So, thanks, Vikram, by the way, for tuning in and asking these questions. So I'm an avid reader ever since my times with Goldman Sachs in Bangalore. I started doing audiobooks, and I read maybe or listen to one or two audiobooks a month. And what started off primarily in the armed forces world, I was really inspired by pushing human potential to its physical max, the discipline, how some superhumans can do so much more than others. That used to excite me, and I would read a lot about entrepreneurship. Um, Imagine autobiographies of Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or Jack Ma or Sir Richard Branson, Bill Gates. So I would read a lot of these, and it would tell me their tips and techniques for building their amazing journeys. And I would sort of just in my mind, I think I would borrow a few techniques from them. So I think I've read now hundreds of books, and all of them combined have influenced me in some way or the other. When you read compilations like Founders at Work by Jessica Livingston, if I'm saying it right, also the co-founder of Y Combinator and Paul Graham's partner, or I Built This by Guy Raz. He does this podcast, and between them, they cover like hundreds of founders. So there's so many stories I've read, and who knows which little part sort of connects with you, lights your brain up, and you just hold on and store for later. So a lot of these readings have stuck with me, and they've inspired me. Today, I read a lot more philosophy. So I'm reading I'll read Art of Living, or I'll read Thich Nhat Hanh, or I'll read Eckhart Tolle, and I'll go back, read some books from the Tibetans or from the Egyptians and the Sumerians to reading the Gita. I'll read a whole bunch of old and new stuff, but philosophical stuff, in addition to my entrepreneurial and armed forces stuff. I'm also enjoying a lot of wellness. That's some of my reading material. And occasionally I'll sneak in some fiction, usually science fiction. Um, and now my autobiographies have broadened from just being entrepreneurs to just being people who've lived life amazingly. So that's what I tend to read. If you're interested, find me, and I'll try to find my reading list, and maybe I can just publish my entire Audible book list over the years. It might be two, three, 400 books, but I'll share it all. And then you asked the second question around how did I select my team? Um, One of the things that has come to me over the last few years is this teal organization system, which came from a book called Reinventing Organizations by Frederick Laloux. And it said to recruit or team build, which I later extrapolated to just how to engage with meaningful people. How do you find the right people to engage with, whether it's your investors, your co-founders, your clients, or your team members? Always follow these three steps, which is find three fits. It's a fit for values, a fit for purpose. What is your North Star? What are you looking to achieve? Find a fit and alignment there. Second, find alignment in your values or your way of executing your organizational system. Find alignment over there, which is how you do things, how do you take difficult decisions, what is your internal core operating system. Find alignment there. And third, which most of us tend to do, which is find a fit for role. Most of us do that, which say, hey, you're a CA, you have to be able to do Excel, you have to do accounting, you have to work with banks, you have to make financial presentations. If you can do this, you can be my CA or my CFO. And we look for fit for role, and we do a salary match, and we hire. And then we pray to God it works out, because we didn't check for fit for purpose and fit for values or organization. We didn't do these two things, and that we only figure out over the next 3 6 months. And if they turn out to be a good fit, they stay. If they turn out not to be a good fit, they leave. So one of the things we started to do was in our journey was very clearly say who we are and what we do right up front, even if it turns away some people. That's okay. They were never your people. So say boldly, clearly, openly who you are, what you are, why you're doing it, how you do it, and then your people will find you. Remember, we're the most populous country in the world. We have 1.47 billion people. And why even stop at the world? So yell your story, scream your story from the rooftops, let people know. Your people will then start to find you if you're authentically, clearly, honestly sharing your story with as much detail as possible. Then, once they apply, take them through a series where you have honest conversations, you do some shared work together. We call them projects, where they demonstrate their ability to think and action. And then we also do some reference checks. How do other people think about this person? We've understood this person's feelings about themselves. We've heard them enough that we've formed an opinion about what they have to say about themselves. But let's also hear about somebody else who's been closely involved with this person, how they have felt about their journey, their commitment. Do they show up on time? How do they solve problems? How do they solve conflict? Did they take on additional responsibility themselves? Did they help other people on the team? Do they end up in conflict situations too often? These all these questions you can ask other people who've worked with this person, and a combination of their self-representation, their project work, your takeaway in the conversations with them, your takeaway in the conversation with their reference check. You take all of that and you make a decision, and even then, this formula only works 70% well. But that's how we found our formula, and it's worked well for us. And we've got a bunch of amazing, amazing, amazing people who I'm grateful to work alongside every single day.
That's amazing. Thanks so much for sharing that, Varun, and thanks for those questions, Vikram.
Yeah,
We've
thank you.
last couple of minutes of the live. 55 minutes have shown past. I guess time flies when you're having fun. But I think there's definitely going to be a lot of really layered takeaways from this conversation, which I will then put into a post and share in the next couple of days. I do want to take a quick minute to do a self plug also, because this is something that I'm very passionate about. I'm sort of working on right now.
Let's go.
Around technology as well. So as you saw, this has been a very, very sort of detailed, layered sort of conversation, and I'm going to be doing a 6-week version where I'm going to invite a few other people also as part of a cohort that I'm doing, and very quickly you will see all the details on this particular page over here. I've just shared the link. You see, you know, talks a little bit about the ROI. Essentially, the intent is to help you find your voice, right? Whether you're a tech founder, whether you're a consultant, whether you're a senior individual or a fractional individual yourself, the intent is, instead of chasing opportunities, people start bringing them to you. And I do this through a framework called expression design, because everyone is a constellation, and then you go through, as in you're a collection of stars, right? But then how do you give it shape where it can be seen as a clear constellation? How do you take it from a lot of the stories into specific things that you can go ahead? There's a lot more detail about what's covered in each of the uh, 6 weeks, what it's for, and some of the questions over here. So, quick plug over there. If you would like any other details, um, feel free to reach out to me. But uh, thank you so much for this, for making the time. This one. Anything else that you feel you would like to say in the context of the broader conversation we've had? Anything that we haven't covered? We covered quite a bit.
No, I loved it. I felt we let the conversation flow. You asked a whole bunch of authentic, honest questions, and I shared whatever I had to, and we've ended up at almost an hour. And I hope it's useful for somebody out there, even if it helps one person figure something out, or turn on that light bulb on top of their head. Like, this was time well spent. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.
No, amazing. I appreciate you making the time. And like you said, right, the intention is to just sort of do the work and then not be attached to the outcome of the result.
Yeah, exactly.
So thanks everyone for joining here today. We do these lives once a week, once a month actually. Uh, Varun, very, very much for joining the conversation. And like I said, there
Pleasure.
is a third conversation I have in the pipeline, which I will message
Let's
you about.
go.
Uh, thanks again for joining, and have a great evening, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
See you. Bye.